Good afternoon, everybody watching. Welcome on this wonderful Sunday afternoon. Both Chris and I were caught slightly unaware. So, Chris, you are ready. I'm ready. We hope.
I'm a little ready.
I would like. Well, we're going to wing it and just go along, but I know it's going to be great. So, I would like to introduce Chris Mallard. You have 2 YouTube shows, am I right?
Yeah, I've got a couple of YouTube channels that I run. Yes.
And Chris, whereabouts are you situated? I like to get the geographical lay of the land.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll start by saying I'm from Texas because a lot of people hear the accent and then they just but I'm in New Mexico. So yeah.
Okay.
I'm in New Mexico. Been here for about 10 years or so.
Oh, right. So for those South African listeners, especially, and viewers, Texas is huge. I mean, Texas is so you're not in the what is that region called? The you're not in the Panhandle. That's not. Is it near there?
It is. You know what the Panhandle of Texas is, right? The top part that sticks up.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So if you went to the left of it, looking at the map, I'm just to the left of that in the next state over, New Mexico.
Okay. So how far are you from the Bible Belt?
Oh, the Bible Belt is like the southeastern part of the United States, and I'm in the Midwest. I'm right in the center of the country. If this was the U.S., I'd be like, boop, and they're kind of over here.
But I do imagine that you are surrounded by mostly religious people where you are.
Yeah. Well, there's still really a lot of Christians. It's very thick here. It's just not we're just not in the Bible Belt proper. Durante Lamar is in what he calls the buckle, the belt buckle of the Bible. Yeah.
So I've had the honor and the privilege to have interviewed Durante as well on the other show that I on Free Thought Hour with my friend John Richards from the UK. So I've had the pleasure to engage with Durante, and I think he's just doing brilliant work. But just to get back to you, how long have you been going with your channels? Just tell us about the 2 channels that you have, and when you started, and what is it like? Have you received any death threats, and have you had to install padlocks and whatnot? What is life like for an atheist YouTuber in New Mexico?
Well, the only death threats I get are from my wife.
Well, that's fair. That is fair. That is absolutely fair. I'm convinced that you deserve every single one of those.
I'm sure I do. Yeah, I do. So I have 2 channels. I actually have 3, but only 2 I'm really working on. One of them is the Daily Atheist Morning Show. It goes on at 9 a.m. Eastern. And it's like a morning show that you might hear on the radio where there's people laugh and talk, and it's lighthearted. We talk about religion and politics and stuff like that, but we try to keep it pretty light. Durante was a co-host with me on that channel for a while, but his channel got so busy. He's got so much going on, so he's not with us on the damn show anymore. I call it the damn show, the Daily Atheist Morning
Show. That's brilliant. Love that.
So the damn show. You can imagine how the Christians react. Anyway, so there's that, and that's a lot of fun. That's mostly live streams. I do drop some long form content on there occasionally. Now, during the morning show, I come in, I introduce, we talk about the topic of the day, and then Ryan, my co-host, will do a theocracy watch. She'll give us a little news report on what's going on in the world where the religious theocracy is imposing themselves upon us in the courts and in the government here in the United States. And so she does that. And then what I'll do later is we have the second channel. The second channel is called Theocracy Watch, and it's all about calling out this theocracy that's being imposed upon us. So I'll take her little clips out of the show and I'll repurpose them over there and put them up. And then whenever I have any long form content that I want to put up that's of that nature, I put it up over there too. So that's what those are about. Yeah.
So when it comes to Theocracy Watch, we don't have to talk about that now, but you must have ample material. I mean, there's a book on that topic, I'm referring to is it Project 2025? So you actually have a textbook you can discuss, like a book report almost.
Kind of. Well, there is a slight difference in that the Project 2025 manual is really right-wing MAGA propaganda that uses some Christian stuff in its thing. The right-wing people use Christians to propagate their thoughts. They're not really, it's not, but it does. We do. I tell you, we have no shortage of content. They're doing it all over Oklahoma, another state right beside us. They just mandated it not long back to where they have to have the 10 Commandments in every classroom, prominently displayed in every classroom. Now, why? If it's what's that?
I was wondering when I saw that news. I was wondering whether anybody alerted them to the fact that there's actually another version of the commandments, and whether do they know? Have they specified which version of the 10 Commandments they or the commandments? The other one is more. I think it's more than 10. So
yeah. I know that they have a specific set that they want to use or that they will use. I don't know if it's the set that comes along with the whole 618, because oftentimes what I'll tell people is with the 10 Commandments, at least this version we're talking about here, because there's more than one. With the 10 Commandments, what happened was Moses and the people went up to the mountain. God gave them the first 10 Commandments. Commandment 1, Commandment 2, got to number 10, and the people became afraid and backed away from the mountain. And then God continued. That's the only thing that happens. If you read it, it says 10, the people got scared, moved away, and then God went on. Number 11, number 12, number 13, but they like to just stop at that 10. Anyway, so I'm not really sure about that. Now, just this past week, we've had another thing where the Supreme Court, these Christians in Oklahoma have pushed it through the law, or they're trying to push it into the law, to where the federal government will financially support an online Catholic school. Let's just call it a Catholic school. $25 million. What do you do with $25 million? Anyway, why would they, the richest church in the world, need our money to begin with? But anyway, so they try to get it to where the state would have to help pay for this school. The state Supreme Court said no. And then these people pushed it on to the Supreme Court of the United States, and they voted 4-4. Now, one of them decided did he want to partake because she's part of the group that put this bill forward, this law forward, whatever. But the rest of them, the other 4 conservatives, voted for the government to financially support a Catholic school. And you know what happens if that happened? If that happened to where they would do that, then every school, the Episcopal school over there, this school over there, all these schools all over the country, every school in every town, all these Christian religious schools are going to be hitting the government up for funds. And none of them deserve our money.
And that's taxpayer money
Yes.
being used to sponsor church schools, religious schools,
Yes.
while churches are not taxed in the States, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
It's such an absurd situation. Chris, tell me,
is.
Were you born the way you are now, atheist?
No.
That is a bit of a loaded question, I must say. I've had arguments with atheists because I say a child is born neither atheist nor religious. A child is a baby that's born is an intellectual blank slate, so would at best be an agnostic, if that's even a possibility. But tell us about your life story.
Okay, so when I was hatched, I was probably an atheist. No, but my parents were like Christians, I mean, they didn't go to church, none of that business. Well, very rarely would they go to church. But I'll tell you what, if there was a car accident over there, like, oh my goodness, let's pray to Jesus for those people. Those were the kind of Christians they were. Now, my dad was always that kind of Christian. He wouldn't go to church because they look down on you if you don't have the good kind of clothes, often here. I don't know how about where y'all are, but they were, that was the impression he had. Now, my mom, she left the faith. Whenever I was a kid, I like 6 or 7, I remember her going to church. She was a single mom looking for a dad for her kids. So, that's where you went, was the churches back in the 70s, 80s.
Well, I got married in 1995. No, 99. I got married in 1999. I found my husband at church.
There you
and
go.
I looked in a few other places, and the church was the best one because I've got the best husband. So it works.
There you go.
It's a good strategy. It
It is
still
a
is.
strategy. Well, she was a single mother of 5 because there was 5
Oh
of
my
us at the
good.
time, and this was back in the late '70s, so like '78 to '81, '82, somewhere in there. And so
That's
where did you
hectic.
find them in West Texas? The dumpy little towns of well. So where did you go? You either went to the bars or to the churches, and she went to both.
Good
But
strategy. Keep all bases
yeah,
covered. I agree. Yeah.
true enough.
Perfectly
Yep.
good idea.
Found a guy at a bar, didn't get married, but had 2 other kids by him. I don't know that it worked out exactly the way she thought it was going to. Anyway, but along the way, she was always a Star Trek fan from way back as long as I can remember. And eventually it got to where she really enjoyed her Star Trek. Star Trek was the big deal. She eventually embraced science, got rid of her faith. And by the time she passed, we just had a barbecue for her. She didn't want any kind of services, just have a barbecue, have some fun, you know, yeah, that kind of thing. So
Good. Cool.
now me, I was just a same kind of like Christian, you know, and then I guess a long time ago. I can't tell you how long ago. I wrote a book in 2013 on atheism, so it was before then. Anyway, I had a friend who was a Christian, and things weren't going right in his life, so he became an atheist. Right? You've heard about those Christians or those believers who are. They'll say, "I was an atheist like you once," right? But really, he wasn't an atheist. He was just mad at God for not giving him all the things that he felt God should give him. And since his life was in the trash can, he said, I'm going to turn my back on God. Now, God, at this point, God is supposed to go, hey there, buddy, let me help you and shower love on you and give you things, right? Well, there was me and my other friend. We were both Christian, talking to my buddy Mike. We'll call him Mike. Um, and we hit him with the Pascal's wager thing and all this, trying to convince him to come back to the religion. And then we went and turned back on his electricity and helped him get a job and get some groceries. And now all of a sudden he's a believer again. Because God, right?
Oh yes, of course. Hello,
You know,
God.
hello, God.
God,
And
Chris.
God, I've been saying for a while now. So then I moved away, and he was just normal. And I moved away, and then I embraced the atheist life, and I met Christopher Hitchens, not in person, but I mean like on the internet, and just I became an atheist. And then I came back to the town where Mike was to hang out with him on Saturday night, play some chess, smoke some weed, eat some pizza, and he couldn't do that because Saturday nights. I mean, that was the only reason, not because he became religious. Saturday nights, he hung out down on Central with his wife and small children, holding signs with his other religious nutbag friends, pardon the expression, saying, talk to me about Jesus. So he had gone from this fake atheist, not believer, all the way to a sign holding Christian on Central in midnight in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I was like, damn, what the hell did I do? So I went down to hang out with him and his friends on Central at night. And they're like, well, why are you an atheist? Because at this time I was an atheist. It's like, why are you an atheist? And it started the conversation. Then I found myself defending things that atheists like yourselves or public speaking atheists or, people who are into it defend. I'd just never been. I was just some guy who didn't believe. I'd seen a couple of things. And so my answer was like, why don't you want in God we trust on the money? And I'm like, well, why would you want that on the money? Why would would you want under one nation under a law in the Pledge of Allegiance, and I found myself debating all these Christians by myself on the street. As the beginning, as the start.
Well, we're
A
very
year
happy
later, I wrote a book.
and we tell us about your book. Do you have something we can banner for? Is it available on Amazon? Where
Yeah.
can we get hold of it? Tell us about the book.
It's called Anti-Theist, and this is why. It's just a 10-part book. It just gives different reasons why religion is bad, or whatever. I wrote it back in 2013. I have literally taken a college writing course since then.
So you can do better this time.
I can do better. I really need to go back and redo it, but I think I've got a link tree that y'all kindly posted in the description below, and I believe my book is in my link tree.
Well, that's a nice segue because one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, in your opinion, what are the 3 most damaging aspects of religion and or Christianity. Do you think
Hmm.
I have this terrible habit. I ask a question and then I immediately follow it up. My buddy John, with whom I co-host Free Thought Hour, he always tells me not to do it, but let me begin again. Do you think Christianity is worse than other religions?
Okay. No, it's bad.
Okay.
I just don't think it's worse than. I think Islam is
It's
worse than Christianity. Yeah.
okay, we can get into that. What do you think, in your opinion, are the three worst or most damaging aspects of religions then?
Okay. Now, to the first question briefly, you asked me which one I think is worse. I think Islam is worse, but I deal with Christianity the most. So I don't really can't speak a lot about the technicalities of Islam. I just see like it's more bloody, more brutal, more oppressive in my perspective. Now, but what I can speak to as far as the second question, the three things about Christianity that I think are bad is one, how it treats children, how they're allowed to indoctrinate children at such a young age to believe in magical thinking, and how they have gone against educating our children properly with science. Science is bad. They don't like that. Number two is how they're trying to enforce their religion upon us through politics. Now, again, that both of these would still be something you would face under Islam, no doubt. But like
Yeah.
I said, only thing I could really speak to is Christianity because that's the one I'm under now. And then finally, and again, this would apply also. Now, is it Tersia? Am I saying that
Yes, that's
correctly?
perfect. Perfect. Yep,
Miss Tersia. You've asked for three, but
brilliant.
there are so many more. There's so many more. But the third one would.
I'm Tersia,
I'm
so
sorry.
I go for three.
That's okay. So number three is how they treat women, the oppression of women. Again, I believe Islam is probably worse than Christianity, but from my ex-Christian, surrounded by Christians perspective, those are the three: how they treat women and children, and how they're imposing their theocracy upon us through the government here in the United States. We're supposed to be a secular government.
Yeah. In South Africa, we have a very secular constitution and a very modern one. As you know, we
Mhm.
we basically gained full democratic statehood in 1994. But despite that, even in our secular constitution, it still says, "So help us, so help us, so help us God." You know, so
Oh,
I think the most preposterous concept of religions is the belief in the supernatural. If I have to drill
yeah,
down, and because the if you can believe that, and if you can make people believe in a supernatural being for which there's no evidence, then it's not very difficult to make them believe anything you want them to believe.
right,
Um,
right.
so yeah, that to me is something that I've been doing a lot of thinking about. And just to get back to my question on were you born atheist? What do you think of that statement? Because there's that meme. I've seen it often, and I've gotten some flack for responding to it. It's a baby that's just being born, and then it says all babies are born atheist, which
Uh-huh.
I think that's fallacious thinking. I don't think babies are born atheists, nor do I think they're
Mhm.
born religious. I think they are born with the potential to be captured by religion or
Mhm.
not, depending on what happens.
Right.
What do you say to that?
Let's see if I can briefly. Let's just see if I can change your mind. Okay,
Give it a
I'll just
go.
try. Okay, here's the deal.
Give it a go.
Whenever we ask people like Matt Dillahunty, Christopher Hitchens, the amazing Super Chris Mallard, the host of the Daily Atheist Morning Show, when you ask them about what it means to be an atheist, it means essentially that I don't believe in your God, or necessarily you claim to have a God, and I don't believe in it. You have not convinced me yet of that situation. So as an
True.
atheist, I'm somebody that, right, and that is the very same position you come out of the womb with. You have to convince that person that there's a God. They don't even
That's
know
it.
there's such a thing until you tell them, and then somebody has to convince them that it's there. Now, originally, 150,000 years ago, as people were sitting out there trying to figure out what makes lightning strike, they may have come up on their own with the idea of maybe there's a God, maybe there's not. But this infant coming out the womb, they're not going to find that out until somebody tells them. And then that person has to convince them. You know, that's just like I am. I don't believe in a God until you tell me, until you can present evidence to. Now a child doesn't have that same firewall of you have to convince me with protections, and I have reason and logic. That's why we call it indoctrination. But they're at this, whenever they come out, they're in the same position that I'm in. You have to convince me. You have to go, oh, okay, hey, little baby, wipe the stuff off and go, did you know there's a God? Because if you don't, he don't know. He doesn't believe.
Except that I think you've done a really good job of convincing me.
Of trying.
Good. I think that's a very sound way of expressing it, and I'm almost convinced. Except that I would say that the little baby doesn't know yet that they need to be convinced, whereas you and I, we say we need. But I think you've 80%. Yeah, I agree. All right, so we are
a good situation.
Okay, so you've convinced me to a great extent that I was wrong, and we are in fact born atheists.
Well, if we do start from that point, if the premise of being an atheist is I don't believe, you have to convince me, then that's kind of the deal. You have to teach the baby, otherwise he just doesn't know.
That's good argument.
Or she.
Well done.
Yes. Or a Joey. Wait, y'all not in Australia. I'm sorry. There ain't no Joeys in South Africa.
No, South Africa is a little bit different from Australia.
Yeah, I know. It's the accent got me, you know, and they're not the same either. I don't know. I'll be okay.
You're forgiven. Be blessed. You are forgiven. We will forgive you. There are worse crimes than accusing a South African of being an Australian. So there are worse crimes than that. I want to ask you, and I don't know, this is perhaps contentious. What is the state of the atheist community? Sorry about the knocking behind in the background. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
What is your opinion about the state of the atheist movement in the US? And I don't know if you follow events and to what extent you are part of the atheist movement. Is there still an atheist movement? And the reason I'm asking this is because of the recent video put out by Derek from Myth. Yes. I was quite. It made me think a lot, and I'm wondering. On the one hand, there's a resurgence. There's many. I mean, there's people like Durante and you and others who are upcoming new YouTubers and podcasters. Is the community growing and splintering? And are you open to speak a little bit to that? Not particularly the Derek Lambert case, but just because it's something about the American atheist community has been fascinating me, and I've been following it for about a decade now, and I've been picking up different feel. Could you speak a little bit to that?
I can speak a little bit to it.
A little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, only as much as I can. Now, like Derek Lambert, I've seen the video that I haven't watched it. I saw the thumbnail, and I'm like, oh, hey, okay, I need to go watch it. It's a contentious environment. The atheist community is alive and well in the United States. As a matter of fact, there's a whole bunch of them, and it's like herding cats. And that one wants to go that way, and this one wants to go this way. And I'll use, and I'm not meaning to vilify Durante Lamar at all. Okay, I'm going to use him as an example. All right, so they've already got Black non-believers group. They've already got a whole overarching thing already there. And rather than going and joining them, he wants to be a leader, not a follower. So he's going to go create his own little thing, and he's going to have his own little thing. So now we've got a whole bunch of these people out there doing their own little things, and they're all against each other. Now, that's not what happened with Durante Lamar. I'm merely using him as an example. There's already a pre-configured group there doing what he wants to do. But rather than joining them because he wants to be a boss, he goes and does his own thing. And now they don't talk to each other. They do talk to each other. They're a group. They're not a group. Again, now not necessarily with Durante, but it just happens so much. You'll see people start up a thing and they're like, I'm going to build a community and we're going to get all these atheist communities together. Durante's got one. Secular Rarity has one. This guy over here's got one. This guy over here's got one. They don't all get together and make their own and unify. They all claim that they want to unify. They just want to build their own channel. You know, that's sort of now. Is that a good vision? Now, I'm not meaning to vilify anybody. I was just trying to use people you know and the circumstances that you know. And that's what we see here. Another thing that happens is there's a lot of guilt by association. If I've got to be very careful about who I have on my show, because if I have the wrong person, let's say I had Elon Musk on my show. Well, all of a sudden, half the atheist community is not going to talk to me anymore. You know, I've got my Daily Atheist Morning Show, and we talk about this and we talk about that. Now, because of who I am, I support trans rights and gay rights and all the things that you think of whenever you think of a left-wing atheist guy. But just being atheist doesn't necessarily mean I share all those things. I happen to, but that doesn't mean I do. Now, we've got, there's another guy, I think it may have had something to do with Derek Lampert. And that was to do with, he had a guy on his show, I think it was Robert Price. Robert Price said something bad about trans people.
Robert Price was integral to the Derek Lambert story.
Yes. And now see, I didn't watch that, but actually I did watch somebody else. The other man, his name's Ichabod guy, one of the other. Yeah, he was also part of it, and I saw his video on it. So I guess that's how I know about what's going on. But you see what's going on there. How there's this, because this one guy had someone on his show. Now people don't like him, and there's this group, and I will say it. Matt Dillahunty really likes Matt Dillahunty. Sorry, I said it. Really likes policing other atheist channels and telling them what they can and what they can't do. He really likes tone policing other atheists. And you know, that's all I can say about it. Only because I've seen his other videos where he comes out and says, "You guys have done this, and I don't think you should do this. And I'm going to take my 100,000 viewers and I'm going to tell them all about how you're bad and not to follow you because you do this." That's the worst thing I've ever said about Matt Dillahunty. Because I do like him. Here's the deal. We're under attack here in the United States. And this is the deal. I just said my piece about Matt. Now, again, Durante's different. I was just using him as an example. He's building his stuff and he's going great. Matt Dillahunty's great. I don't have a problem with Matt Dillahunty. We are under attack. Matt Dillahunty is a cannon. I am a rifle. Durante is a saber. We're all weapons of war defending ourselves against this theocracy that's being imposed on us. I have a lighthearted, fun morning show, and we really try not to talk too much hardcore politics and stuff like that. A lot of people come to my show and they say, I like coming to your show because they're tired of watching atheists scream at Christians on the telephone, because that's what most of the live atheist shows are. Call in, and they'll even, if you're an atheist and you call in, they'll put you to the back of the line.
Yeah.
Because they want to speak to Christians first, because the drama comes from Christians and atheists putting down the Christians and yelling at them, and you know, and the people who are sick of being traumatized verbally, like Donald Trump being in office and everybody's like, oh my God, they just want to break from all the hate and the yelling and the screaming. They're tired of that. And they enjoy my morning show. But that doesn't mean I disagree with Matt Dillahunty or his methods or anything that they've got going on there. I think I'm all for them, because we're all weapons in the same battle. So there's my kind of my piece. It's like herding cats. For some reason, and I don't know why, Matt Dillahunty doesn't like me, or I have been told. I think it's one time, somebody told me a long time ago, he didn't like me because I'm a comedian. And I'll say funny things, and I got these other voices, and I do other things. And they call that accent shaming because I'm playing dumb. I don't know. I've heard things, and I don't care anymore.
Okay.
I don't care anymore. If he's not gonna tell me what I can do to be funny and not be funny. I'll give him the finger so fast.
I agree. What I do find, so I'm in South Africa, and we don't have nearly the critical mass that you guys have over in the States. So we still just struggling, and I don't think we also have some groups, but not a single one of them, in my opinion, is nearly vocal enough. No. And I myself tried to run a little nonprofit to promote atheism and secular humanism, and it's really, really hard. So
Yeah.
maybe that's why, as a South African trying to get something going in this country, I look at the way things, because you guys are about 20 years ahead of us, and it's just interesting to me to see how things pan out, and the but having said that, I'm translating David Fitzgerald's book Nailed at the moment. And you familiar?
Okay.
You must be familiar with it.
It's about Jesus being nailed to the cross.
Well,
Yeah. No, I'm
he
not.
wrote it first.
I've go ahead.
Okay, so no, David Fitzgerald actually wrote. Well, he's completed his second trilogy. So the first trilogy, he was one of the first prominent mythicists who have the
Okay.
thesis that Jesus never existed as a real person. It's been around for a couple of years now. So he wrote 3 books. The first one is Nailed, and the second one is Mything in Action. So the full title is Nailed. 10 myths that explain why, or that prove that Jesus never actually lived. And the second one is mything in Action. And I do not for the life of me remember the third one. But we interviewed David on Free Thought Hour, and I was just the whole thesis of mythicism has fascinated me since I first became aware of it. And then I contacted David and I said, listen, I'd like to translate your book, your mythicist books, into Afrikaans, because David is a little bit of a language aficionado. He's amazing. So I am almost done. I'm on the final chapter with translating Nailed. And as I'm reading it, there's a lot of focus on the early Christian church and the history of the early Christian church. And when I see what's happening in the atheist community, I see many parallels in what happened in the early Christian church, because after all, the early Christian church consists of humans, and the atheist movements consist of humans, and that's what humans do. We sort of, but it's very interesting for me to see those parallels currently. So yeah. On that topic, that's a what is, have you ever delved into mythicism? Are you into that type of Bible knowledge, or not really?
A little bit. I find it a fascinating topic. I haven't put my stake in the ground yet as to whether I believe he was real or not. Nobody cares whether I think he was real or not. I would have to say that if you were to pull my fingernails off, I would say he was probably a real person. Obviously not the Son of God, Matter of fact, he could be based on 2 or 3 real people. During Jesus's time, being a Messiah was like being a rock star. You had followers, and there was a whole bunch of people going around Judea doing this thing. Jesus was not the only one. So I really don't know, but I do find it a fascinating subject. I often give them the benefit of the doubt, though. I'll say, okay, he was real. Let's say I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. He was a real person. He was really had disciples. He was really captured by the Romans. He was really executed on the cross. Okay, we'll give you all those benefits of the doubt. Well, if that's true, then Jesus was not sacrificed, was he?
Exactly.
He wasn't sacrificed. We'll give you all that, but that means he was actually executed by the Romans. There was no priest giving sacraments. There was no altar. There was no, you don't give your beat up, violated, tortured goat during a sacrifice. No, you give your best goat, right? Yeah. Yep. So Jesus, he was not sacrificed. He was executed. He didn't give himself willingly. He was hiding in a garden. The disciples didn't give him. They tried to fight to save his life. Mary and Mary Magdalene, clearly they didn't try to give him away. And the Jews who went to Pontius Pilate and said, you know what, he doesn't represent us. They weren't sacrificing him. They were disclaiming him. Matter of fact, had they been doing the will of God, Jesus wouldn't have said, forgive them. They know not what they do.
Yep.
Were they doing right? He wouldn't have asked for their forgiveness.
So do you know how many Christian listeners to your show you have? Do you do call-ins at all, or not at all? Do you have Christians calling?
We don't do call-ins. Not on the morning show. Okay. No, we don't have to do call-ins. We do have people in the chat. We have a very lively chat, and we do have antagonists. some people call them trolls that come in. We have Christians that come in, and if as long as they play nice, we do not mind. We love a debate. What'll happen though is you have people come in, and what they want to do is they want to be ugly. They want to say something ugly. They want to say something anti-trans or anti-black people or anti-whatever they're against. They want to say, so they'll start trying to debate as try to get into the conversation. And then they start saying, trans women aren't women or something like that. And whenever you're like, listen, man, you need to stop being a jerk. We're not going to take that kind of language, whatever you're trying to do. Then they're going, oh, well, this is an echo chamber. No, it's not an echo chamber. We'll allow you to debate, show your ideas and all these things. It's whenever you become vulgar and you start trying to insult other people or be ugly or threaten other people. And then whenever you don't like that somebody's putting rules on you, you want to try to get out of that by going echo chamber. Nah.
Does work.
It doesn't work.
Have you ever had to combat some in your daily life? How do people know that you're an outspoken atheist, and do you find that it affects how you live your life and how you interact with people, or is it really not a thing?
It because of where I am, it does. I'm also an actor here in the Southwest. Yeah, you can find me at Chris Black. I go by the acting name Chris Black. I don't pay for IMDb anymore. I've been focused on the atheism stuff for the last year. But hi, Praggy. Praggy is here. Pragmatic Crystal's here. So I, on that account, for the longest time, I wouldn't post any of my atheist stuff at all because I didn't want to hurt my acting stuff, But I mean, I'm a big boy. I'm 6'3", 220 pounds,
Okay.
And despite being I'm a funny son bitch, but I got an angry looking face. So nobody,
you can look
I don't.
Mean. Yeah, no, you can do the mean thing.
I can't. No, I generally don't have those kind of problems, but I may as we go forward. Our world is changing. I'm very outspoken. I got my face on a shirt. It says Daily Atheist Morning. Here, I'll show you this. I got a shirt with this.
Well, I have to put on my glasses. Let me put on my glasses.
Okay.
Oh, I love that. That's cool.
Yeah,
now everybody gets a close up of my face.
So I'm pretty open about it, and the more we go on, the more open I get. So, and part of the deal is I use humor to try to bring my message across. Sometimes I get serious.
I think that's brilliant, using humor to get the message across, because even Christians can appreciate humor. One of my friends, his father was a minister, and he tells the story, and he loves it. He says he had a younger brother who was very much afraid of the dark, and even afraid of being alone in a room when he was a young boy. And his mom had to, so I'm talking 4 or 5 years old, and his mother had to sit with him in the bathroom while he was taking a bath. And this one particular evening, the mom couldn't, and she said, listen, you're going to have to do this on your own. I have to go and finish supper. Don't be scared. Jesus is with you. And she went to the kitchen, and not too long afterwards, the little boy cried from the bathroom, Mommy, Jesus and I are very scared now. And I always find that humor like that is a very good way of making people think about. Because if you look at that little 5-year-old who said, Mommy, Jesus and I, we're very afraid now. What does that say about Jesus? From the mouth of babes.
Of course.
So I quite love that strategy. Have you ever performed in a you say you do comedy? Do you do stand up at all, or have you ever done like a one man comedy show or something like that?
Not yet, but that's on the horizon. Actually, I'm big into Shakespeare as part of my acting. I've done a lot of Shakespeare theater.
Wow.
Well, I say a lot. I don't do a lot. I've done like 4 or 5 with the New Mexico Shakespeare Festival.
Brilliant.
Stuff like that, yeah. I actually started doing Shakespeare to try to get over my fear of being in front of a crowd so I could do the stand-up comedy.
Wow.
Now my joking around about religion is not as, I mean, it's poking fun, so some Christians might not like it. Are you aware of any of the little fake commercials that I make?
I'm not.
You don't
Tell
have
us
any?
about those, please. Tell us.
I would love to show you one. Can I show you one? Would that be possible?
Please
Would you
do.
mind?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Please.
if you'll give me just a second, Pragmatic Crystal's probably going, no. All right, so I'll tell you about one of them, and then I'll show you a different one. Okay. Well, which one should I show?
Welcome, Pragmatic Crystal. It seems we need to find out more about you. If you can tell Chris what to do and what not to do. Do you have magic powers, Pragmatic Crystal?
Praggy is fantastic. Oh, you don't know who Praggy is? You don't know Pragmatic Crystal?
No, I
She's
don't.
wonderful. She's an all over the world mod. She shows up, she drops links. She'll bounce trolls. She is wonderful. Let me see if I can find this for you. She is cool. Oh, there was a noise. I heard a noise. It's from the chat.
Is it on yours? Are you going to show us one of those ads?
Yep, I'm going to show you one. I just got to pull it up real quick, and I've figured out how to do it here on the thing. And now this one here.
Please do.
Okay, I'm going to go here. Almost there. I'm going to see if I can make that big. And now let me go share. I understand. Share. And now if you will make this biggie on your screen for us.
Okay, Dean is listening. I'm hoping Dean is listening so that he can do the necessary.
Dean, I think he's probably listening. Okay, so there's that.
There we go.
Okay. Let me wait for her to get back here so she can catch it. There we go. Okay, tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
Just getting a light.
Flanagan!
Yes, sir. Very disturbing, I know.
Fetch me Father Flanagan.
Your Highness.
You are in the presence of His Holiness, the Puppius Maximus, guardian of the sacred fire hydrant, defender of the holy tennis ball, and eater of the golden kibble, Pup Oliver Poopsalot the Fifth.
Your popedom. I heard you have a bone to pick with me.
Condoms, Father Flanagan?
No, thank you. I've got plenty.
That's what I mean. Why are you selling condoms?
Oh, you mean our Faro Sombrero line of condoms? Understood.
You know how we feel about those around here.
Well, they're not to be used by the Catholics, of course.
Not for Catholics?
No, they're part of our Sinner Gonna Sin lack of faith outreach program.
Sinner gonna what?
It's like getting the tithe, but from the heretics and the heathens and the atheists.
Oh, well, when you put it like that.
But, Your Highness, this will reflect very poorly on the church.
True. You know what this means, Flanagan?
Warning label. A warning label on the box. Not for Catholics in big letters.
Too subtle.
Instant purgatory if used by Catholics.
I like it. Divine branding.
Excellent, your popedom. Would there be anything else?
That will be all. You may leave.
So those are my puppy dogs right there. Let me show you. This is our team. There we go.
All.
So that's Bailey, and there's Sadie Lady. She's the oldest, and then it's Ollie Dog. Poops a lot the fifth, and there's Daisy and Jack. So those now if you don't mind, I got one more for you here. Let me go here and see if I can find it. Okay, this one here, we'll do this one here. Okay. I got to stop it and put it over here for you. Let's go stop sharing. This one's only 30 seconds long. So, okay, bear with me. 30 seconds long. Share. Here we go. And then we'll be done. All right. Whenever you're ready, there you go.
Is our humble parish tired of constant litigation? Drained by bloodthirsty lawyers sucking the collection plates dry? Well, no more threats of jail time and public humiliation. Try Father Flanagan's line of inflatable altar boys. Cute little fellas, eyes and mouth wide with surprise, complete with lifelike tears. Father Flanagan's line of inflatable altar boys coming to a Walmart near you.
Well, I just have one question. Did you also get a new pope when recently? Is your pope also newly instated?
Yes, I'll tell you. I've been planning that commercial for quite a while. I filmed part of it. I don't know how long ago. I did the editing. I put it all together, and the day I released it was the day he died.
I do not believe it.
I didn't either. I figured I'd get like a swell of views too. Nope,
Okay, hang
100
on.
views.
So it's been established that it wasn't J.D. Vance that killed the Pope. Maybe it was you.
It was the pup. Yeah, he had one of his hit dogs go take care of the Pope, get him out of the way. Yeah. So the very day, we knew the Pope was sick and whatnot.
But it was a bit quick, eh? It wasn't.
It was.
They're
like, he's getting better. He's getting better. He's getting better. He's dead. Because he was in the hospital, and then he started getting better and better, and then J.D. Vance showed up.
Yeah, and then he just I see there's a Bolly Lang says at God TV Radio, the Brett Keane show. Are you familiar with that? I'm just looking at the
No.
At the chat. I'm going to make a note of that. I'm also making notes of the chat here. Somebody said the atheists created Nambia. I did not know that. Well, I suppose anything's possible. Have you ever? So, who's your three or let's make it five? Your five top or the atheists that had the greatest influence on your thoughts and the development of your ideas.
Well, there would be obviously Chris Hitchens.
Okay.
I would say Sam Harris a little bit with Sam Harris. Richard Dawkins, not so much. He was around and all that, but I didn't really, he wasn't part of my thing. And I'm kind of grateful for that because he's turned into a crap since then. But really, I have to say, despite, what I said earlier about Matt Dillahunty, he was influential. I watched a lot of his stuff early on. And of course, I don't disagree with Matt Dillahunty in certain things. I'm just saying that there's this, you know what I said. I don't want to go over it again. But then let's see, that's three. And then there's this guy named Chris Mallard. He's dashing and can't count him.
Besides him, okay.
Besides him. Really, that's it. Those are my faves. I can't really think of anybody that was influential on me. Okay. Star Trek. Science fiction. Science fiction has been more. Yeah, a lot of people like Christians don't have any idea how big the universe is. Just that alone, they have zero idea how many trillions of galaxies, and they have no idea how big the universe is. And once you wrap your brain around that, then it's this petty little god creature that they worship kind of makes a little less sense,
And to me, that would be one of the greatest. Sorry, I'm just getting my son to set up a plug for me, because my phone is running down, and I got so I need to get a charger going, and he needs, so my dutiful boy is crawling around underneath to get
doing something. That's good. Put him to work.
Absolutely, yes. He's now right where I want him, on his knees, where I can tell him what to do. Crawl, boy, yes, crawl.
Keep him oppressed.
I'll be a biblical baby mama. Call me that.
There you go.
He's true. Although he's my son, so he has more worth than I do. Technically, in the Judeo-Christian tradition, I should be the one crawling around on the floor. You said something about it was Star Trek. And I was going to say that in my opinion, one of the greatest harms that Christianity, especially, and I'm also speaking from the point of Christianity because that's what I am most familiar with and that's what I'm most bombarded by.
Mhm.
But it's the fact that we are not, if you're indoctrinated into Christianity, and especially the more conservative brands and the more controlling, then things like Star Trek would be taboo.
Yeah.
So there's so many things that explore and tell us about the wonder of the universe that you would just not be allowed to you'd not be allowed to watch it. So it just shrinks your mind, and it shrinks the exposure that you get, and then that can have lasting long-term lasting detrimental effects. And to me, that's one of the greatest indictments of Christianity. So I want you to talk a little bit about the theocracy that you are facing in the United States. There will be those who will say that's brilliant. Every country should turn back to God. Okay. Which God would be my next question.
That's first question. Yeah.
How real of a threat is the theocracy in your experience in the US in 2025? Or is it just left-wing? Is it just left-wing woke propaganda to even talk about something like that?
It is. It's just left-wing woke propaganda. That's it. We're just
sorted.
Well, yeah. It's really nothing. Yeah.
It's not
We don't have
to. Brilliant.
If I will,
Next
let me
topic.
tell you, I've got this other next topic. I've got this other channel called Theocracy Watch. Okay, as mentioned, every day on the Daily Atheist Morning Show, 5 days a week, Ryan Kultastic comes on and does another news article, another news bit about the theocracy that's being forced upon us in our country. So last week, the topics of the show were ICE crackdown targeting elected officials, Texas Promise Month. In Texas, they're trying to get it back to where purity culture. They're trying to force this into law about purity culture based on religions in Texas. That was Thursday's show last week.
So I'd like to know. So I'd love to know more about that. That sounds like The Handmaid's Tale. I mean,
that's what we're facing here. The beginnings of The Handmaid's Tale. Yeah.
So there are real attempts to, well, if I think what I know about the abortion bills, I mean, and I know that many will say I'm wrong, but in my opinion, the whole hoo-ha around the abortion bill can be taken back to theocracy, because the entire premise for being against abortion is because it's murder and you must make babies.
Right.
So if you, but this law or this proposed bill that you just mentioned, it's really making a massive impact on how people lead their private lives.
It is.
I mean, what happened to freedom of speech and what happened to democracy?
What happened? Well, we elected we've got the right-wing conservative politicians here who have saddled up with the Christian nationalists for their vote. Give us your vote. We'll let you impose your theocracy on our people. It's that simple. That was just one day. That was just the topic from one day. The day before that, show topic was child safety versus church secrecy. In Washington State, the Christians are fighting a law that would mandate it to where priests who hear in a confessional about a child being abused has to tell the police about that. It's a mandated reporting, and the Christians are fighting that. Okay, so the Tuesday show last week, why are Christian conservatives starving kids? And the reason why that one has come up is because in Maine, the Maine schools refuse to go anti-trans, like the Trump administration wants them to go anti-trans, which is partly a religious thing. And because this 1% of kids, this tiny, not even a whole percentage of kids, might be trans, and there are people trying to help them, because of that, they're going to cut off funding for 175,000 school lunches for kids. They're going to starve all the kids in all those school classes if the local administrative school boards don't harm trans kids for them. Okay. And every day of the week, taxpayer funded Catholicism. That's where we talked about the theocracy going on here is real. They're attacking us on so many different levels all the time. Jehovah's Witness covered up. They're using politics to try to make it to where they too can do the same thing. They don't have to do reporting. If it is reported, isn't that scary? That there's a whole group of people out there trying to make it to where people don't have to report child abuse. And those are supposed to be our moral leaders.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm wondering, it's one thing to watch the news and to listen to people like you. And I know it's almost impossible for you to judge, and I don't know whether polling will give an indication, but do you think there's a groundswell amongst liberal Christians in the States to disagree with what's happening from the top down, or would you say, and this is an unfair question, I know, but would you say that there's the possibility at least of a groundswell from the general population saying, even if I'm a Christian, I don't agree in theocracy, or is that just me being Pollyanna?
Well, no, I think one of the things about Christians, or really any large group of people like this, when we're talking about a religious group, there's a lot of good people there. There's a lot of really good core people there. And the reason why they're there is because they were led to believe that being part of that group could help other people. That's why they're there. And they get swept up in all the other things, the hurt that group does. But there are a lot of good Christians, really good Christians, or as we would call them, like Christians. Come on, to be honest, we both know the more fundamentalist you are, the less likely you are to be a nice person in society.
And that goes for atheists, although atheists
no, here's why.
Very rare, but
right. But an atheist fundamentalist just doesn't believe in God. You can't not believe in God any harder than I don't believe in God. You just don't believe in God, so you go do no God things over there. But Christians actively believe this stuff, and they go hurt people based on those beliefs. Atheists don't generally sit around and do that, or this notion that, there's some atheists that are radical atheists. You can get radical atheists. I'm more of a radical atheist than other people. But
radical is not fundamentalist. I love what you've said.
Right.
I think we need a T-shirt.
That's right.
There are no fundamentalist atheists, because you can't.
There's not.
You can't. If you don't believe, you don't believe. It's like you can't be more dead than dead. If there's no belief, there's no belief.
Well, with Christianity, the more fundamentalist they are, the more likely they are to impose their religious nonsense on other people, on the women. The purity culture that we're talking about from Texas, where they want to have their daughters promise their virginity to their father. This is just kind of the weird. The more fundamental.
That's like Stone Age Judaism. So
yes.
My body belongs to my father.
Yes. I know, that's the purity culture thing they're trying to pull into Texas. Now, see, that's kind of the whole thing, though. So whenever I say a good Christian, technically they're as far away from being a fundamentalist Christian as they could be. It's just like Islam. They're not very fundamentalist. They live with everybody. They're peaceful. They love everybody. They're wonderful people. They're very fundamentalist. They follow the rules very specifically, and they're unaliving people. Because that's what you do whenever you follow the rules as they're told. Anyway, that's my notion on fundamentalism.
Okay, we're coming down to an hour, so I think Dean is going to start to flash red lights in my eyes any second now. But there's one thing I'd like to ask you, and that is following up from this purity culture thing. You and I don't know when you were born, but I'm 52, so I was born, which makes me middle-aged, I suspect.
I think so. I'm 53.
Yeah. So we're about exactly the same age.
Just about.
And now I'm wondering, do you experience growth in the atheist community amongst the demography 14 to say 22? Because that is something that I'm beginning to think about more and more. In South Africa, we have massive religious indoctrination in our schools. It's not supposed to be, it's illegal, but I mean, why should we adhere to the laws? I mean, let's not go there.
Right.
But what do young people think? I would love to get in touch with a 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old
Mm-hmm.
and hear what they think, and whether there are any young atheist activists who are starting to. I see it. I don't know. Poor Ditlale. I'm taking notes, Bulelang. I'm just telling you, I'm taking notes, and I will be asking you about these people because I want to know about young people. What do you say,
Oh, yeah.
Chris?
Well, there's a couple of things going on. One of them is that the young people are good. I like the young people. They're not really wanting to be oppressed by the religion. That's what I see. That's part of the reason why the conservatives are making such a push. It's like the death knell of religion here, in that they realize their message is so hard. So that's why they're fighting so hard to get it back in schools and force it on the kids as young as they can. They're trying to force the 10 Commandments in every classroom, right? That as young as they can, because it's a hard sell. And the teenagers just ain't buying it anymore. So that's one of the reasons why they're doing this conservative movement is pushing it so hard, because the kids just aren't. Yeah. I mean, they have a lighter association,
Yeah.
I think.
I see Dean's question tacks onto mine. What is the end game for Christianity in the USA? But I would
absolute domination.
Absolute domination.
Christianity, yeah, absolute domination. Yeah, it's just like Islam. Their goal is to spread, to make everybody to convert or conquer. It's not that up there, but that's literally what they're doing. There's the end goal for Christianity in the United States is absolute everybody to be Christian, a fully Christian nation.
Okay, that's the end goal. Do you think they're going to achieve it?
Not without a fight.
And you could be on the front line.
That's right. Have you heard they have the United States, Donald Trump has created an office of anti-Christian bias?
Yes.
And now that's not an anti-religious bias, is it? No, it's anti-Christian bias. And who's most likely to do the oppressing here in the United States? Christians. And this rule that they sent out, this, like, if you're a person and there's a Christian who says, oh, I need an exemption because I have a Christian, it's because against my faith. When you read the email they sent out to the employees, it's as simple as, if somebody rolled their eyes and gave you any kind of attitude because you asked for this, you can report them. This is we're on the verge of blasphemy laws. We had a video just again this last week. Let me look at the topic. Now, for those of you who don't know, we also I've got the Daily Atheist Morning Show. That's live. I got the Theocracy Watch. That's a lot of dropped content. We also have mailing lists. So if you want a newsletter and get out on our Theocracy Watch and get up to date on what's going on, you can join our newsletter. I'll post a link, or I don't know if I can. I'll post it for Dean and he can post it.
Definitely.
Yes. I was going to show you something and I already forgot what it was. Besides the mail. Let me go ahead and get that, though.
Are you on Substack? Where else can people get hold of you, get in touch?
Really, the best way to get a hold of me would be go to that link that he posted down there. I mean, you can obviously email me at chris@thedamnshow.com, but that link, it's a link tree, and the whole purpose of that thing is to give you all your links in one place. I think maybe you got me earlier. The only thing I don't actually have on that is my book. I don't think my book is listed on there, but that's okay.
Chris, before you go, or before we continue, I see there's somebody in the chat who's making an accusation against you. She calls herself or himself Lil Monkey, and asks a question. Would you say there's any kind of factual evidence in the Bible? Well, factual evidence about what would be my response to that.
Yeah.
But then Lil Monkey says, Christian is spreading false information. That's interesting. I misread Little Monkey. My apologies. Christian is spreading false information about Christianity in the US. That's interesting. What do you think?
Okay. As far as the let's top the first one. Is there any factual information in the Bible? I'm sure there probably is. Was there really a person named King David? Maybe there was. Was he really anointed by God? I kind of doubt it. We have things like the day, Jesus was allegedly born here 6 years after or 4 years before King Herod, because King Herod went after him. But really, when you go find out, King Herod actually died 6 years before Jesus was allegedly even born. So
Chris, Jesus
what's
was
real?
born twice. Chris, you have to understand.
That's true.
Jesus was born twice. He was born twice. Yes. In fact, I saw an apology that said that when confronted with all the different stories about the resurrection, he was resurrected 4 times, and each time was different. So it's a little bit like Groundhog Day, you know. Stand still, you know. I mean, so
when you're just making it up.
So Chris, I'm just have to tell you that Little Monkey said, and that's what I thought was being claimed initially, and I was right. So Little Monkey says that you are spreading false information about Christianity in the US. So
you have to be more specific. Have to be more specific as to, I mean, I said a lot of things. What was I wrong about? I mean, whenever we talk about the Bible being pushed in Oklahoma, you can go look. You don't need me. Google is your friend, Little Monkey. I said they're trying to put Texas purity culture back in Texas. You don't have to trust me. Go look for the news articles. Go search Texas purity culture. Go whatever. Go look. You don't have to trust me. Don't listen to me. I'm just some crazy jackass on the internet. Go look for yourself. And I mean, Christianity. You're aware. You've dealt with Christianity and how Christianity works. Yes, here in the United States.
I was a Christian for the first 40 years of my life, so I'm very familiar with Christian. I love Bolilang's question. How can one person handle 700 wives?
Yeah, true enough. Yeah.
That's enough to discredit any story in the Bible. Chris, we're running up to just over 1 hour. You have been most generous with your time.
Thank you.
I am convinced that you did not spread lies about Christianity in the US, because I follow US news and I'm in South Africa and I can see certain things. Therefore, I think you spoke truth, but like you say, Google it, check it for yourself. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for what you are doing. And I'm going to check out your little puppy dogs. They are so cute.
Check out the channel. It's at thedamnshow.com and then at Theocracy Watch. So on YouTube. I want to mention also I'm pretty good at helping people build their YouTube channels. If you would like some help building your channel,
I would love to. I would love to. I'm definitely going to make contact with you, because
we'll work it out.
As after the 13th of June, I plan to so what happens on the 13th of June, maybe I can just say so I'm also a little bit of, I have been called a radical atheist, but I'm an activist. And long story, somebody in my hometown put crosses. They're about 30 centimeters, what's about this high, glow in the dark crosses that were stuck onto traffic signs, and which is illegal. I mean, in and of itself, you're not allowed to. And I removed the crosses, and I could see that they were 3D printed, glow in the dark. They were quite they were not cheap. And I put a notice on the local town group that I removed them, and if anybody wanted to collect their property, they could contact me and I would give it back to them. And that escalated to the point where there's now a court case on the 13th of June.
Really?
Yeah, because I have been accused of blasphemy. So I stand accused of blasphemy because I took down crosses. So I'll just wait until after the 13th of June, and then I will definitely get into touch with you again. So that's what's happening in South Africa.
And you have blasphemy laws there?
We actually do. They have not been enforced since 1962. So the last time anybody was fined for blasphemy was in 1961. But the laws are on the statutes, and they are there.
Now, did the person who put up the crosses, is he been charged with violating public property?
I don't know who that person is. The person who
Oh, really?
it's a third party who.
Oh, I thought they were bringing the charges against you for taking off the crosses.
No, it's another person. It's just another random warrior for Christ. But Chris, I do have to comment on this comment by little monkey. Little monkey says they appreciate our response, and there's a lot of misinformation about the Bible. I think there's a lot of misinformation in the Bible, but okay. And you admit there is evidence that we can agree on. No, I don't think we admitted that, Chris. I don't think we admitted that there's evidence that we can agree on. We'd have to get into that way more specific. But
well,
then
I think in his defense, I think he just means whenever I said, there may have been a real David.
Okay.
That's all I think he's meaning. Yeah, we'll give him that. Yeah.
Yes, but I have to say, and we'll end on this. Little Monkey says, however, the idea that Christians want to take over is false. Now, as a former Christian, Christians, the gospel, the message of the gospel is go out and make Christians of all the nations. Per definition, one of the key aspects of Christianity is to take over. That is what Christianity wants. They're missionaries. It's a missionary religion. So, Little Monkey, Christians want to take over. I will grant that not all Christians want to take over using violence, and not all Christians want to take over in the way that's happening in the US. I will grant you that. But the basic premise of Christianity is we want to take over the world. And after all, there's a very important reason why the takeover is maybe not the right word, but when everybody knows about Jesus, he will come again. So it's really important that everybody knows about Jesus.
That's right.
So I just wanted to finish up, Chris, make a final comment, say goodbye.
Okay.
Hello.
I will do a quick thing though, because I'm a channel host and I'm used to hosting other channels is something. I just want to tell everybody to tune in here in just a little bit, because we're going to have Eric Capriani from Deconstruction talk at 7 p.m. on the show. I don't know if you saw the message, so I thought I'd hook that up for you. So do that.
Yep.
Now, my show starts at 9 a.m. Eastern, my live show, Monday through Friday. So if any of you guys want to pop in, I don't know how that converts to your time. It's probably sometime in the afternoon. You can pop in the chat and watch our show and laugh with us and have a good time. And
9
do that sort of thing.
Eastern. I'm good. So I like to always look. So the closest large city near you is New what is the closest city that New Mexico? That's
for
that's
time
a state.
frame. Yes, New Mexico. That's a mountain time. Mountain time if you're looking for the time zone. I'm in mountain time, but that's why I give you Eastern time zone, because I tell it 9 a.m. Eastern, because if I tell you mountain, it just makes it that much harder for you. 9 a.m. Eastern. Everybody can do Eastern. And we usually run for 2 hours. We have our fun little commercials and spots, and we talk about atheism and all that business. We also have the newsletter. Did I give you guys the link to the newsletter? Let me give you a link to that, if I can. I'll post it here for Dean, if in the private chat, if he'll post that. And if anyone wants to click that link and go sign up to our weekly newsletters, I just sent them out this morning. The newsletter will have two. One of them is what we talked about on Theocracy Watch last week. The second one is about the Daily Atheist Morning Show, what's coming up next week. So
brilliant. And I admire you to do a show every day. That's brilliant. But you're an actor, and actors are special people. I'd love to do an Afrikaans accent thing with you. Let's see. Maybe we can collaborate.
I would do it. I do Irish accents, New York accents, English accents. I can kind of do an Australian accent if I'm around them enough. I would love to do an Afrikaans. That's great. One of my favorite actresses is from South Africa. Charlize Theron. Claudia Black.
Who? I don't know Claudia Black. Okay.
From Farscape.
Terrible.
Yeah, Farscape. She did Farscape. Anyway.
Okay, brilliant. Well, Chris, final word from you. I'm saying goodbye. It was lovely. Thank you for your time. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Go well.
See you next time.
See you next time.